Gather round, my dear friends, and let me tell you the incredible story of Brett Archibald, a surfer who fell overboard in the ocean and survived an unimaginable ordeal. It was April 2013, and Brett was on a surfing trip in Indonesia with a group of friends. He was an experienced surfer and had been looking forward to this trip for months. But one night, as the boat they were on was making its way to the next surf spot, Brett suddenly felt ill.
I then retched again, and I just thought, I cannot retch like that again. If I do, I'm going to pass out. And that's the last thing I remember.
The next thing he knew, he was in the water, alone in the dark, with nothing but his board shorts on. He had fallen overboard, and the boat had sailed on, leaving him behind. Brett was lost at sea. For the next 28 hours, Brett battled against the elements in a desperate fight for survival. He was adrift in the middle of the Indian Ocean, with no food, water, or protection from the sun. He was constantly battling against waves and currents, and he had to fight off sharks and jellyfish.
I just saw the shark coming at me, and I remember going, oh my God. Please just make it swift. Hit me, bite me in the throat here. And as I did that, I mean, you talk about our will to survive and stubbornness. As I did that, I saw his fin. I've got to catch the shark. Because if I can catch it and hold on to his tail, it's going to take me to a reef.
As the hours turned into days, Brett's body began to break down. He suffered from hallucinations, dehydration, and severe cramps.
And the most amazing thing happened. I looked up, and there was this white plume of water coming up out the sea. And I remember looking there going, that can't be real. It can't be real. But in it was the Virgin Mary.
He was covered in cuts and bruises, and his skin had started to peel away from the sunburn.
That moment, I felt like my brain was turning into liquid. It was literally just boiling and just flowing out of me.
Despite the rough seas, Brett refused to give up, his mind fixated on the thought of his wife and children back home. He drifted in and out of consciousness, hallucinating and delirious, but never losing sight of his determination to survive. As the sun rose on the second day, Brett found himself alone, adrift in the vast expanse of the open ocean. With no food or water, he knew he had to conserve his energy if he was to have any chance of being rescued. He spent his time floating on his back, conserving energy, and scanning the horizon for any sign of rescue. Brett's situation grew increasingly dire.
But I was just spent. I had nothing left. I remember just saying, God, please, can I just sink to the bottom? I can't carry on anymore.
The constant exposure to salt water had begun to take a toll on his body, causing severe cramping and dehydration. But he refused to give up hope, using his knowledge of the ocean's currents and winds to guide his path and increase his chances of rescue. Brett finally spotted a passing ship, but his efforts to signal for help were unsuccessful.
They came chugging along towards me, and I thought, hallelujah, I'm rescued. No, it's all, I've hung on all for a reason, and they got within 250 meters of me. I could see them patrolling around on the deck. I could see my mates' faces, the anguish, the worry, and I was screaming, I was hollering, I was swimming, I was just trying to get there. I was against the current at the time, and they just didn't see me. I mean, they stopped the boat, and I thought they've seen me, and that's why they're stopping. They send the tinny out and to get me. And next minute, the engine started up, and they turned left and sailed away.
His hopes dashed, he continued to float, his body growing weaker by the minute. But just as all seemed lost, a miracle occurred. Brett was spotted by a fishing boat, and he was finally rescued after spending nearly 29 hours alone in the ocean. His story is one of courage, determination, and resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit when faced with the most impossible of challenges.
You know, to wrap up, I always like to say to people, you know, life is difficult. I mean, one of my favorite books in the world is by Scott M. Peck, The Road Less Traveled, and the opening line in that book is, life is difficult. And it is. There's no ways anybody on this planet, doesn't matter who you are, can look at it and say, life's just a beautiful cruise. It's not. There are difficulties in every step of the way. But it's how you deal with them. And for me, having gone through such a radical experience, there's not I used to think I was having such a bad day, you know, like a long work day and this and that, and my car broke down and I've got no petrol, and I think back to, it's just not important. Not important. If you can go home to someone you love, or even if you don't have anybody in your life, you can go home and you look yourself in the mirror and you really like what you see, and you know you can work on that and make your world a better place. Because if your world's a better place, you're going to make the people around you world a better place. And it's so simple, but sadly simplicity is so hard to live by. And I just love sharing that story. It's not hard or anything. I just love it, and I hope people can take something out of it, whatever it is, one little point. If they can take one little thing out of it that changes their life, puts a smile on their face, that makes my day a good day.